All right, everyone, welcome back. We're here with Kevin. We're continuing our journey through the history of Palladium, and we're right at the cusp of Riff's release. We talked about the Keith Parkinson cover and the great story that was around that. We talked about the themes, but today we're going to get into the great anticipation, right? You've been working on Riffs for over 3 years, and you start like letting people know that it's coming, and then you were saying that you were having some doubts because you were so inside the project that you couldn't see it clearly anymore.
Yeah, I knew there was good material in it, and I was happy with it overall. But the animators talk about this because when you do an animated movie, you typically spend 3-4 years from start to finish, from concept to finish. And I had actually been kicking around aspects of the concepts for a few years, even before that. But when you immerse yourself in a big project, because I already knew I wanted to come out with the Sourcebook and Atlantis and some other stuff, and when you get this big project floating in your head, at some point, I think it's the classic, I can't see the forest for the trees.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to doubt yourself because you've worked on it for so long and you think it's good, but it's like, is it true? Are you full of crap? Have you worked on it so long you can't tell anymore? And honestly, that's what it is. I would look at this stuff and reread this stuff and go, I don't know. I think that's good. Should I tweak this? Should I change that? And it's like, and thankfully, because I'm familiar with animators, I'm a big fan of several animators from Walt Disney and A.R.C.H.I.E and the Fleischer brothers and everyone in between, Walt Kelly and Don Bluth and all these guys. And their thing is, so look, you have to trust your original instincts. When you set it out and you outlined the project and you storyboarded the project, you knew it was good. Have faith that you weren't full of crap from the beginning. And that, if you executed everything you had planned to do to the best of your ability, it's going to be fine. It's going to be excellent. But I was still full of trepidation. And my wife, Mary Ann, she wasn't sure either. She's like, I think it's really good, but I don't know, Kev. I don't know. And everyone was like, I think it's good. I think it's really good. And the only person, and I have to give him the shout out because he was the only one, and he was unshakably certain that it was going to be a smash hit, and that was Kevin Long. There was a point where I asked Kev to, I'm just, I'm asking everyone, do you think it's good? Do you think it's going to be fine? And at this point, it's probably even about to be sent off to the printer. It might have been at the printer. And it's like, too late. It doesn't matter, right? Whatever.
Right, at this point, the money's like, checks have been written, books are being printed. It's coming out one way or the other.
Exactly. And Kevin Long was great. He's like, Kev, I can't believe you're so worried about this. This is the best thing you've ever written. It is great. Riffs is great. In fact, I predict it's going to sell out in a month. And I'm like, gee, thanks, Kev. And we were really tight, especially back then. And he was one of my closest friends. And I'm thinking, it's just my buddy, being a buddy. And he's like, no, it's going to be great. I'm telling you, Kev, it's going to sell out a month. And whenever it would come up again, he'd just kind of sit back and kind of like, it's great. It's going to sell out a month.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it's sweet, but he's full of it. And because, Turtles sold out in 3 months. Robotech sold out in like 4 or 5. And I had printed 10,000 copies of both of those, and that's what I was doing with Riffs. And, this wasn't Turtles. This wasn't Robotech. It didn't have an established fan following.
Which everyone told you was the reason they did so well, because they had specific settings that other people would recognize. And this was something wholly unique and wholly new.
Exactly. I doubled down on the whole idea of make a truly unique, outstanding world. And so that's what I did. And, we picked up the books from McNaughton and Gunn on the way to Gen Con, and we had them at our booth. And I knew we were in good shape because you had people coming back the next day going, I've read the first 30, 40 pages of the book, and it's fantastic, or half the book. And, in a couple of cases, I read the whole book. It's amazing. And they're flying off the shelf. We only brought 300 copies, 350, something like that, to Gen Con.
And which you could throw in the back of your van and actually physically transport down there.
Right.
Yeah.
and so by Saturday morning, we're sold out. And we're seeing people walking around with, the book. And I'm like, hey, this is selling like nothing we've ever seen. And Long's like,
told you.
Telling you, it's going to sell out in a month. Well, he was wrong. It sold out in 3 weeks.
So let me take a step back here, because you mentioned that you've been working on Rifts for like 3.5 years before it saw print. Based off everything we've talked about, that's the longest a game had been in design for Palladium at that point, right?
Palladium Fantasy was easily the equivalent to that.
Okay.
But I was hammering out all the mechanics for what I knew would be my Megaversal game system. Right. It was easily 3.5 years. I mean, I play tested it for like 2.
With the defilers and.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, those 2 books are the ones that were taken forever, and to just make sure that they were done right.
All right. So you sold out of the first 10,000 copies in 3 weeks, completely shattering everything people had been telling you, and your own in the forest doubts. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, this was kind of the first of a wave of setting specific role-playing games that came out in the 90s. Like you had Rifts, but then we had, Shadowrun and Vampire. These were games that were developing their own IP and setting, and kind of, as you were saying, flying in the face of the conventional wisdom that, hey, it's got to be as generic as possible to appeal to the most people as possible.
Well, I think, there had to be something in the zeitgeist. In fact, I was nervous because Torg Eternity and Shadowrun were announced before my release of Rifts. In fact, Shadowrun, I think, came out to Gen Con before Rifts and was a smash hit. And I was like, oh no. Again, there had to be something in the zeitgeist, because we're doing books that mix fantasy and science fiction, and are traveling through, in the case of Torg, through to different dimensions and time and space and all this. And I'm like, oh, it was too slow, 3.5 years. I needed to come out with it sooner. And then I saw Torg, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. And then Shadowrun came out, and I was sure that was going to be the one that was the same as mine. And I looked at it, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness. It's cool, but it's different.
Yeah.
And then Rifts came out, and then, yes, it just, I don't know if it was, Shadowrun and Rifts that help people to go, hey, we can do whatever we want, or like I said, something in the zeitgeist that industry was moving towards that way creatively, and we just happened to be one of the very first. I don't know.
I'm always amazed when things like that happen, and you talk with people and they sit back and they're like, oh, well, clearly this is ripping off that, or vice versa. And I'm like, well, the one that I remember is 28 Days Later and The Walking Dead, the first issue, came out very close to each other and have a very similar opening scene with a guy waking up in a hospital. And I'm like, no, like, if you understand how movies and comic books work, there's no way they could have been, ripping off either. There was just something in the culture that said, hey, this is a cool thing. Let's bring zombies back and kind of tell them in at least starting off in similar points.
No, but parallel development happens all the time. People don't realize that.
Yeah.
It just, and I don't know how and why. I mean, culturally, things are happening, in the media, things are happening online, different publications that, are all likely in games, video games. All that has an impact on us as a whole. And yeah, there was just something going on where people said, hey, and again, maybe like me, they looked at Turtles and Robotech and Battletech and said, these are all unique settings, and they're killing it. They're selling quite a ton. And so this thing about generic is horseshit, and it's more fun to create your own world and really rock. And let's face it, all of us, if you're a game designer, if you're a role-playing game designer, it means you're a game master. It means you've probably been creating worlds for God knows how many years already.
Yeah.
Let it loose.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, I've always said that creativity works best in a box. We can, even Riffs, with all of its, myriad of possibilities, has an established setting, and you can be really creative within it. And yes, you can go outside of it and bring other things in. But I mean, there's something about, as a GM, sitting down and saying, I'm going to play Birthright. I'm going to play Palladium Fantasy. I'm going to play Shadowrun. Okay, now that I have my box, I can be really creative inside this sandbox. And again, we mentioned this several times. The fact that Rifts was, hey, this is North America when it came out, and a lot of things that you already know and are very familiar touchstones just advanced or torn apart and rebuilt in different ways. Now take the things you love about your local region. One of the GMs that I got to play with Rifts, he was going to school for geology. And so when Atlantis came out, he was making maps of where we could find the gemstones in the region because he was so familiar with it. And there's something wonderful about familiar yet not as a box for bounded creativity.
Oh, absolutely. And let's face it, there's just all kinds of things in literature and film and media that have an impact on us that not even if we're, I'm not saying directly in the sense of, oh, Star Wars is amazing, I'm going to create Star Wars. But in the sense of it inspires us to create something, and the magnitude. I kept saying that, Riffs is my Star Wars. In the sense of scope and originality and grit and that kind of thing. And, there's lots of movies like that. Terminator, Aliens, Alien, all kinds of things. Magnificent Seven had a profound impact on me as a kid. The original 1960, I think it was, movie with Will Brenner and Steve McQueen and a bunch of great actors at the time, a young Charles Bronson, and I just loved that movie. It has nothing to do with science fiction or fantasy. It's a Western, but it just.
Well, I mean,
the Seven Samurai.
Yeah, Kurosawa definitely inspired Lucas, right? And you couldn't get further away genre-wise from Kurosawa and Flash Gordon, and yet somehow he was like, what if we? So first print run sells out 3 weeks. Obviously, you did a second print run. How long did that one last?
I think I was foolish and I only printed another 10,000. So that lasted about another 3-4 weeks. And then we printed 20,000 and that lasted 6 months. But yeah, a lot of people, that was a crazy thing too. I have distributors, I have fans calling the office. This is before, the internet, or just as the internet's starting to take off. And we've got all these calls coming in from individuals, from distributors, from retailers going, we need riffs. My distributor doesn't have riffs. Can I buy riffs directly? And we're like, if I had it, yeah, but no.
It's gone.
It's all print. And it's like, well, I thought you said you were sending in for reprint. I'm like, I did. And the problem is, back in the day, it took like 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks to get a book. So we sent in the book, and as things were selling out rapidly, but it still took another like 8 weeks to get it.
Yeah.
And then those blew out. And in fact, it was funny. Sean, my business partner, Sean Owen Robertson, was saying that he was, looking for copies and just could never find them. And same thing with Turtles. I think his earliest edition of Turtles is third printing or fourth printing, and it's like because of it just selling so fast. It was cool. Some UK magazine that we had sent a review copy to called it an instant classic, which was like, yes. Of course, others panned it completely, but it's everyone's opinion is different. And
yeah,
but yeah, it was very exciting, very fun, and we dived into doing other books to follow up with it and back it up. But
yeah. I still remember reading that Riffs book for the first time. I had to have been in high school, and just every page was like new ideas and new concepts. And, I don't even think I realized it was a line for the longest time until I went to my game store and they started, stocking more. I had just the core book, and we played for almost a year and a half with just the basic, the base Riffs game. And man, all right. So obviously you guys were riding high. Riffs is selling better than you had anticipated. That had to feel good and validating for everyone who worked on it, but especially for Kevin Long. I can only imagine.
Well, and he was part of that. Let's face it, 75% of the art in that book is Kevin Long. And he did a beautiful job. His design work was amazing for that book, and his art quality, excellent.
Oh, and the color plates, right? His leyline walker. So many images from that core book are just seared into my head.
Oh yeah, the red board, the leyline walker, Earth with the super ley lines across it.
But there's a funny story about some of Kevin's artwork and what kind of became one of the definitive looks for a very long time until the Coalition War campaign came out. Right, Kevin designed the Dead Boy armor, but that was not originally designed for Riffs. Is that
no? That is correct. So, well, you could kind of argue that it was, but it wasn't. So,
right.
I had already talked to Kev about the Coalition and various elements, and he was already designing stuff up. Like he had already whipped out the Glitter Boy, which was amazing.
Oh yeah.
Some other things, and he was working on some of the design work, and this is like a year before the book will actually be released. And so we're at Gen Con the year before 1990 when Riffs debuts. And I'm waiting for like the perfect, when he gets around to doing the perfect design for the Coalition.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, he was doing concept ideas for a book that was coming out sooner, which was Robotech's Lancer Rockers. And the writer was there also at this Gen Con, and we're during slow moments, or when an artist is bored, they often sit down and draw stuff. And I actually think the original Death Heads Coalition design might have even been on a freaking napkin. But it was certainly just on some piece of paper. And Kev was doodling, some idea hit. That's the cool thing, when you're creative. Well, sometimes it's a pain in the neck when you're waking up at 3 a.m. and I got to draw this or write this. But it's cool that ideas just sometimes just appear, and you never know when it's going to hit. And so this idea for what Jeff wanted in Lance's Rockers came to Kevin, and he sketches out this really great mask and the basic sketch of the Coalition soldier that we would call Dead Boy. And he said we got like a helmet shot, and we've got like a quick rough of the full figure. And Jeff and I could hear Long say, "Hey Jeff, what do you think of this design?" And he shows it to Jeff, and I'm looking over the shoulder, and I'm thinking, "Oh,
that's it."
I had seen sketching some stuff earlier, and I'm thinking, "Oh, that's beautiful. That's great, Kev. I like where you're going." And then I was disappointed. I was crushed when I found out he's doing it for Lance's Rockers. And I'm like, oh, well, too bad. They're really great. And Jeff's like, oh, no, that's way too dark. And Long's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, what? And, Jeff just like tore it to pieces. I mean, it wasn't just like, nah, it doesn't work for me. I'm just not interested. And he just like trashed it. I know I wanted this look or that look, but, it looks too Nazi-ish, and it's too dark, and it's all black. And I'm like, oh. And Kev kind of looks at me, and I'm like, so, Jeff, you sure you don't want this design, right? You don't like it at all? You don't like the death head? Oh, no, the death head, it's just too grim. It's like a skull, and it's black. And I'm like, and you're sure you don't want to use it in your book? No, not at all, not at all. And I'm like, you're absolutely sure? Yes, absolutely sure. Like, Jeff, this is great for the Coalition. We'll call them Dead Boys. And Long got all excited. And it was funny because Jeff was like, wait a minute. And Long's like, no, you didn't like it.
That's right. So let me ask you a question about that, because for us Rifts players, the Coalition, it's a large part of the Rifts story, especially in North America. And while Rifts has gone on to multiple continents and different dimensions and under the sea, a lot of the content that has been produced for Rifts centers in North America and ties in directly or indirectly with the Coalition. So why did you come up with the Coalition? What was kind of your impetus for that? What are some fun behind the scenes stories of the creation of the Coalition back in these early days?
Well, again, I think why people enjoy the Coalition so much is, first of all, they're a great villain that people love to hate. Yeah. Much like Darth Vader. But also they can kind of relate to him because Emperor Karl Prosek, who is, the dominating political figure in this empire, which started out as a democracy, in a lot of ways, he's not a good guy, but he has good intentions. And he just looked at all this, and he's bitter from the bloody campaign that the Federation of Magic had launched against Chi-Town at the time. It was a growing nation in and of itself. And lots of people were slaughtered and by these evil mages and aliens, DBs that had allied themselves with them. And there's this lasting animosity. And for young Karl Prosek, and his daddy, Joseph I, was like the hero of the campaign. He saved Chi-Town, and then they went and pushed the Federation of Magic back into, the magic zone in Ohio. But it left this lasting impression. And in Karl's mind, anything inhuman, anything magical are bad and need to be destroyed. It doesn't matter if the person's good or not. It doesn't matter if the DB, this alien being from another world, would be willing to help. It doesn't matter if the mage wants to help you. As far as he's concerned, all non-humans are alien invaders who need to be sent back to where they came from or destroyed. Because a lot of these, a lot of DBs are refugees from other worlds. They get caught up in some kind of dimensional energy and, thrown into rifts. They don't want to be there on Rift's Earth, but they are, and so they're trying to make the best of it. So they're just trying to survive. And some are evil, some are aggressive, et cetera, et cetera. But you got that cool dynamic there. Yeah. It's not just, I'm a slobbering monster who's going to eat you. That can work too. We have plenty of slobbering monsters in our books. But I wanted something more to it, something meatier, something we could understand. And the problem with magic for Carl is that, one, he's seen it misused horribly over and over and over. He knows the rifts are somehow magic, tied to magic energy. So that must be bad. He knows that certain beings can imbue people with magical powers, and they're usually demonic, dangerous. So in his mind, magic is just too dangerous and too much of an unknown to use. And clearly it corrupts people, at least in his mind, his way of thinking. So they must be destroyed. And so he's created this strong military to save humanity. In his mind, they are all heroes of humanity. He came out with a book a few years ago called The Heroes of Humanity, where he's kind of calling people to step forward to fight this new gigantic invasion of demonic beings, these two warring factions in the Minion War. And I'm not saying that the Coalition is the heroes of humanity. This is Karl Prosek's point of view.
Yes, he's a believer.
Exactly.
He's a true believer.
Exactly. Yeah. And that inspires a lot of people, and a lot of people have joined the Coalition. The other thing I think people don't realize, because they tend to focus on the oases, in my mind, of humanity and technology and civilization. But the world is a savage, dangerous, utterly dangerous place, which is why the burbs exist. The burbs are these like shanty towns around the fortress city of A.R.C.H.I.E and a few other major Coalition fortified cities. And the reason they exist at all is because you quite literally have no idea what might be lurking behind the next tree or rock. It could be anything. It could be a chipmunk, or it could be a dinosaur that wants to eat your face. It could be a demon from another world. It could be some hostile dimensional being. It could be bandits. It could be anything. Yeah. And it's so dangerous out there that people have flocked to the Coalition and set up these little shanty towns all around it, because those towns are safer than living in the wilderness. And when you have a town that is established in a wilderness, the only way they can survive is either blind luck, or they have some kind of champion or champions who defend them. Now, whether that's a dragon or a vampire or the cyber knights or some other heroes. But that can change. In my mind, you visit this wonderful town and you have a nice time. The people are nice. You come back 2 months later, the whole town could be gone. It could be destroyed. It could just be empty, just a ghost town. It could be now ruled by something bad. The people now are all glum and sad, and because they're under the thrall of God knows what. I love that. And so for a lot of people, Emperor Prosek offers some sense of the old life. And so they flock there. But, he kind of picks and choose, or his people kind of picks and choose who's allowed in. And, they can only accommodate so many people. And, but he's this idealist who's bad guy, because he just goes to extremes. Emperor Prosek would see this cute, wonderful little sweet DB family, a little boy, 2 little girls, and mommy's holding a baby, and he'd gun them down without thinking twice.
Yeah.
or order them to be gunned down because they're freaking aliens.
Yeah.
They're
And
here.
walk away thinking he was the good guy in that situation.
You got it.
Yeah. So did the Prospects, were they part of the original idea? Did they kind of evolve over time?
They were actually one of the very first ideas. They were there from the beginning. I guess also, there's always debates about terrible wars like World War II, and and evil. What is evil, and what is evil? I mean, it can be takes all kinds of shapes, and it's like were the people, or was every German soldier or German citizen an evil person who wanted to see Jews wiped from the face of the world? No, some got caught up in the stuff, some got drafted and just did what they had to do. It just, a lot of them fell to the propaganda, and that's what you see in RIFs too, where the people who live in Chi-Town and other coalition states, their life is kind of idyllic, and they're fed all kinds of propaganda. Emperor Prosek keeps his people, the majority of them, are illiterate, and he just feeds them with, whatever lies and rewritten history and propaganda that he wants them to eat. And they do, and they buy it because they don't know better. I mean, at this point, there's at least a couple generations of people who have grown up in Chi-Town and have only heard what horrible monsters there are, and horrible monsters show up on a regular basis to kind of go, oh yeah, Emperor Prosek's right, yay, thank you, God bless Emperor Prosek, he's protecting us and our families. And I went with the death head, the dark look. I wanted something dark and ominous, because I wanted to have, again, sort of that juxtaposition of we're the good guys, but we look sort of like the bad guys.
Yeah.
Because they really are the bad guys. Or again, are they? Because, some of these guys, and you'll see more of that when we venture more into the Minion War, that, coalition soldiers, in the trenches with mages and DBs who are truly fighting the same greater evil, and who might actually sacrifice their life or take a grenade to save coalition soldiers. They have a different view when the war is over about how good or bad or dangerous these non-humans and spellcasters really are.
That's awesome. I can't wait to get to there. All right. Well, let's wrap this one up by talking about Rift's Sourcebook One, which this is before the World Books came out. I mean, we're going to talk about the World Books. Don't worry. But this first source book introduced. Yes, I love that image of Hagan and the robotic hounds coming down off of this throne. Was this just stuff that didn't make it into Rifts? Was this? How did you view putting together Sourcebook One?
Yeah, a lot of it was stuff that didn't make it into the original RPG. I
got it in the Cyberworks collection.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's a beautiful collection of A.R.C.H.I.E material, remastered, relayed out. It's a beautiful book. But yeah, a lot of Sourcebook One was material that didn't make it into the first book. And then the other half of the book is basically, I felt like there needed to be some kind of adventure that kind of helped set up the world and described some elements of it and sort of the weirdness of it. And I had this great idea of this, AI, RG3, as being sort of this machine god. And he's seen all the stuff, but because he survived from the golden age of man through the 200-year dark age into Rifts 101 PA, which is when this all kind of takes place. and he's not sure what to make of it. Because, he wasn't programmed to deal with magic or dimensional tears in space and time, or aliens coming to Earth, or any of that kind of stuff. And so for a lot of that, it's like, this does not compute. So he spent a long, long time just kind of watching things and observing things. And at some point, he decides he's going to bring in a human being that he feels like he can kind of trust to help give him ideas and a different perspective.
Right.
And that doesn't work out so well for the first guy.
No, James T does not have a happy.
No. James T is, let's just say he's messed up.
Yeah.
And so Archie's a little hesitant, but he meets this other guy, Hagan. And they kind of hit it off, and Hagan becomes Archie's idea guy.
Yeah.
And over time, bizarrely enough, so did his best friend. And they both make each other better. I mean, Archie's pretty cold and, matter of fact, black and white kind of guy or machine, intelligence. And Hagan's more of a scoundrel, black-hearted, I'm a survivor kind of guy. Yeah. And over time and their influence, and they become better, both of them.
Well, yeah. And
although you never know. I mean, Archie in his own way tries to help humanity survive various things, kind of behind the scenes. But, he's this crazy machine, and he is crazy. And he's trying to figure things out. I mean, like I said, he hid for a long, long time.
And if I remember that his first attempt to kind of help humanity, doesn't that village get completely wiped out and destroyed by invading demons and such? And like it drives him even further into madness. But I love the fact that Hagan, right? If you follow Hagan's story, and Archie's story, Sourcebook One, Sourcebook Two, Shamarian Nation. But you watch this arc of Hagan across Sourcebook One, Sourcebook Two, some of the later source books. And Hagan goes from this kind of, very selfish, almost evil person who's just tooling around with his AI friend, to becoming more of a heroic figure, because their plans, which started off as deception, took root inside of him, and I love that. Now, Hagan, where did Hagan come from?
I just thought we needed that human foil. I thought Archie isn't going to learn without some kind of human interaction, and while he has like slight human interaction here and there, it's mostly been observational. So Archie doesn't know what to make of people. He feels like, and he's probably been programmed to protect humanity. I mean, he was part of the peacekeeping forces and the U.S. military, and so he. And it's interesting calling him he, because I really do think of him as a intelligent being at this stage. This AI is just kind of tormented trying to figure stuff out. And then throughout history, he sees human beings doing wonderful things and doing horrendous things. And it's like, golly, are people good? Are they worth saving and protecting? Should I be doing this? And gee, they got this capacity for evil. They've got this capacity for goodness. And I'll just kind of stay in the shadows, but I'm going to manipulate things here and there. And a couple of times he tries to do things. Yeah, they seem like they always backfire. Like, oh, things are going great. I'm helping this little town. And woof. Oh. And now I'm sad and I'm devastated. And maybe I shouldn't have tried helping them at all. Maybe it's all pointless. Or, wait, isn't this my purpose? It's just like regular living beings. He's trying to figure out who he is and what his purpose is.
But also, right, doing this without any of sort of the emotional frameworks that a human being would have, or the ability to kind of reconcile when bad things happen, right? He's having to like learn this at the same time, and it's definitely unhinging his circuitry.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and for Hagan, he thinks he hit the jackpot,
Yeah.
especially initially, because, we're talking like Archie, like he's not Data. He controls this huge golden age military complex, and he can make like a seemingly endless amount of robots, high-tech advanced robots, like on par with the Coalition or Triax, because he has all the old technology, which he has not shared with people, because he's not sure if that's a good idea.
Right.
But he's watching these things and doing this. So for Hagan, it's like, wow, I've got this intelligent, friendly to him anyways, 3D printer that'll make me anything I want.
Yeah.
And so they make crazy machines and experiment with killer robots and androids and things that look like monsters or people. And they got this whole kind of weird, insidious plan that they're trying to go out. But in a lot of ways for Hagan, especially early on, it's like, I just got this amazing toy box.
Yeah.
It's like a genie in a bottle. So grant me my wishes.
Your first book after the core book of Riffs kind of doubles down on the science fiction. But when we come back next time, we're going to talk about the first two world books, which really expand the fantastical and magical elements of Riffs with vampire kingdoms. And then for me, which is, just one of these high watershed marks in the Riffs series, which is Atlantis, which I think is a near perfect source book for Riffs, in the fact that we have something out of human myth, but then we have this, old one, alien intelligence, Splugorth kind of twist. And then we get all of the bio-wizardry and the tattoo magic and all of these new pieces of technology and magic, and something that blends the two, kind of living up to the promise of the first book, which, was just so filled with promise. And then, so I'm looking forward to talking about those two books next time.
Sounds good to me.